Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We're back, episode 7 now of the Morty Minimum Battle series. I think we've only got like 2 episodes left, and we're gonna be done and on to an absolute gauntlet, which will be Jasmine, Chuck, and Price. Obviously, Price I think is gonna be a cakewalk, but the other 2 could actually eliminate some Pokemon. That's at least my prediction. We'll see if it actually works out. But for now, we've got to get through these last 3 episodes. Now, with that being said, before we get into this one, I just did a pretty crazy solo run. I don't know if it's going to come out before this episode or after this episode, but I did all of Johto with only wrapping moves. We probably never want to use Wrap in Gen 2 again. That's all I'm going to say. But if you get a chance, please check that one out because it is definitely a special run. But today we are coming in with 17 challengers. We have, of course, Marowak. We've got all of the Hitmons, Lickitung, Seadra, which means Kingdra is coming in, Seaking, Starmie, Mr. Mime, Scyther, Jynx, Electabuzz, Magmar, and its baby for Magby, the last baby that we have to test in this section. Scizor is also coming in as the evolved form of Scyther, and then we've got a very nice Stantler. Now, I'm predicting that most of these Pokemon are going to be pretty straightforward here. We've seen so many strategies to get through at this point, but who knows? The fighting types could potentially give us some issues depending on the moves that we currently have, and it's always possible we have to go for some hidden power dark or something like that. Still, I'm predicting 17 of 17 get through this without really too much issue. See if that prediction actually holds up. I'm going to lead off with this Marowak, and then we will jump into the 3 Hitmons back to back to see how they go. And Marowak already has Bone Club, so I think this is going to be perfectly fine. Dig is available if we need it, and obviously we have the Quick Claw, so if there's just a situation where we need to outspeed a little bit, we should be able to do it. So really, this just comes down to speed, I think, and I don't think we're going to be fast enough to outspeed everything, but it might not actually matter. Now, one thing I am very much interested in is trying a full game solo run with Marowak where it has access to the Thick Club, just because I think that could be incredibly OP. Now, I have the option to learn Focus Energy here, and if I were to replace any move for this, I think it would be Tail Whip. The only question is there ever a situation where we're really going to be banking that much on critical hits? I'm going to go ahead and just give the move though, because why the heck not? Maybe it will make a certain fight work, keeping in mind that in order to do double damage with Tail Whip, we'd have to set it up on a target twice, whereas at least the higher crit chance could give us the chance to get through in a really tough situation. But just like that, without any real issues on the Kimono Girls, we get through that section. So let's make our way straight to the rival. I'm going to put on the Quick Claw here just because we are slower than the Haunter, but maybe if we can get the Quick Claw to activate, it will just be a one-hit KO on that Pokemon. And then as long as we can find a way through Bayleaf, which we do have Headbutt, I think we can probably get this one to go. But let's just test it out and see. So first time I get cursed by the Haunter, I'm still going to just try this to see a little bit of the ranges. We get to level 22, Bayleaf comes out, and we are 1 point in speed faster than this Pokemon. So we can go Headbutt, trying to get some flinches here. It looks like a 4-hit KO with Headbutt though. So it's pretty clear we're not going to get through with the curse on. Still, without the curse, I think we have a reasonable shot there. Here we do manage to hit the Bone Club first thanks to the Quick Claw, and the Haunter is in fact a 1-hit KO. So now when we get to the Bayleaf, we can go for the Headbutt. It flinches turn 1, flinches turn 2, it misses a Razor Leaf, so we get through that Pokemon with no damage whatsoever. We can stick with Headbutt here on the Zubat, which also flinches, so that's an easy 2-hitter. And now on the Magnemite Bone Club, easy 1-hit KO. We get through the rival with no issues whatsoever. So basically, I think any ground type, as long as it has access to the Quick Claw and then can outspeed the rival's starter, is probably fine if it has Headbutt or Bite or some other flinching move in order to get through there. And now I expect Bone Club to be more than enough for the gym, but let's get in here and find out. It's obviously a huge advantage that Bone Club and other ground type moves are physical here, so we're going up against against the weaker defense stat of these ghosts, and they're super effective. So we have a chance to actually knock them out pretty easily in one hit as long as the Bone Club actually connects. And here at level 25, we even get to learn Bonemerang. And I have a pretty strong bias towards unique moves, so I'm going to go ahead and just learn this move over Bone Club here, and let's see what Bonemerang actually does for us. So Morty attempt number 1, I'm going to go in with the Quick Claw on this one. I'll get the Mint Berry if I really need it, but here Bonemerang is an easy one-hit KO on the first Ghastly. Gengar comes out next and misses the Hypnosis and just gets destroyed. Then Bonemerang destroys the first Haunter, and out comes the second Haunter. It goes Nightshade. We hit the Bonemerang and get the easy KO. So just like that, we completely destroy Morty with Marowak. No wonder it's also a ghost Pokemon, clearly. So yeah, easy victory. Now let's move on to the Hitmons though, who might not be so easy to get through. And Hitmontop was the first one that came up in the list when I searched it in my file explorer. So this is the one we're going with. We have Rolling Kick, Focus Energy, Swift, and Mud Slap. Dig is of course also an option. It's very likely we will go Dig here in order to get through that Haunter. But I think with that, this Pokemon's going to get through just fine. We only learn Rapid Spin via level up in this section. I don't think we've got any real value there. Same for Quick Attack. I don't think it really does anything for us. I think we're just running mostly with this moveset as it is and maybe adding Dig on. Of course, the Kimono Girls were no issue here, so it's really just a question of if we need the Dig for the Haunter. We are currently in a speed tie with that Pokemon, so really it's pretty realistic that we could get through here with this strategy, and maybe Mud Slap turns out to be enough. Let's just test it one time. So first attempt against the Haunter, we hit the Mud Slap. It does less than half, but we also know that when we get Dig, it's going to be more than double the power of Mud Slap, so I think that's going to be more than enough. We get paralyzed here though and cursed, so we're obviously going to lose this first attempt, though we can go Rolling Kick on the Bayleaf. It goes for the Reflect, which is like the worst thing that could happen here, and we're simply going to go down on this first attempt. Still, Dig is going to be good against Jasmine, so I think this is a perfectly fine play to just replace Mud Slap with Dig, and let's just get back into this fight. And we're just going to reset here for a speed flip win, or if we get Lick like that, and then we can just get through the Haunter. It's actually not a one-hit KO though. That changes my calculus just a little bit. Once I see that that's not a one-hit KO, even from full health, I am going to instead go down to the Lighthouse in order to gain a couple levels. So by going to the Lighthouse, not only did we gain a couple levels, we guarantee that we will outspeed there against the first Haunter, and that should give us a better chance of getting through this fight. So once again, we will go Dig as he misses a curse, and now that is a one-hit KO on that Pokemon. So out comes the Bayleaf. We're of course faster. It goes for the Razor Leaf, but we're gonna 3-hit KO this Pokemon with Rolling Kick as long as it actually hits. We just miss a couple in a row there. Still, we do manage to get through. We'll go Swift on the Zubat. It's gonna be an easy 2-hitter as we just heal with a berry that we probably didn't need. And finally, Rolling Kick is perfectly fine for the Magnemite. So we get through just fine, and we are able to move on in the game. I expect Dig to be more than enough for Morty. We're probably just going to go for the Mint Berry there if I have to guess, in order to make it more consistent. So with the Mint Berry on, let's just get into this fight and see if we can actually win with Hitmontop. Of course, Morty leads off with a Ghastly. We are faster, so we simply Dig and one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes the Haunter. We Dig and one-shot it as well. We didn't even come in on full health, but here, as long as this Gengar doesn't put us to sleep, I think we've got it. We get the Mint Berry for the first Hypnosis. We do well over half, and then it misses the next Hypnosis, so we simply knock that Pokemon out. The final Haunter can't really do anything. It tries Nightshade, but we're faster and underground, so we beat Morty on the first attempt without even healing coming into the battle. So Hitmontop at least is perfectly fine in this section of the game. There's really nothing to do. Just go to the Lighthouse and you're basically good. I mean, you're gonna need a good speed DV, but really it's not too bad. With that being said, let's now check in on the next Hitmon. So next up is Hitmonchan, and unlike Hitmontop, we do not learn the move Dig with this Pokemon. So the only real options that we have to go for, we already know Pursuit, though I don't expect that to go great with our low special attack stat, and we also know Mud Slap, but we saw previously, at least with the Hitmontop, Mud Slap was not enough for the Haunter. Otherwise, we have the Elemental Punches to lean on, and if we really need a fighting type move, the only one that we can get at this point is Rock Smash via TM. So I'm gonna stick with my current moveset of Headbutt, Agility, Mud Slap, and Pursuit for starters just to see how they go, but if we get really desperate, we may start adding on more moves. Now, because we went down to the Lighthouse with our Hitmontop and it was using a stronger move for the Haunter, I decided to just go down and clear that section with the Hitmonchan as well. So now we're ready to go into the rival, but with a significantly weaker move in Mud Slap or Pursuit. We're just going to see what the two moves actually do, given our attack stat is so much higher than our special attack. But if those don't work, then we're going to look into Elemental Punches, and finally, if even that doesn't work, we'll think about adding on that Hidden Power Dark. But those are the only options available to Hitmonchan here. So first up, let's test ranges. I'm going to start with a Mud Slap on this Haunter. It does less than half. Of course, it curses, so we're going to knock it out, but still, it's not great there. Let's just see how we do here, though. We Headbutt on the Bayleaf. It misses a Razor Leaf. So that's the second one in a row that we've gotten a miss here, and then we get a flinch. So we do knock out Bayleaf. We're on to the Zubat where we hit. It's not quite a one-hit KO with Headbutt, but it is a two-hitter, and that brings out the Magnemite. I'm going to go for the Mud Slaps. It's 4 times super effective, but does not get the range to knock it out, and Sonic Boom takes us down. Still, one critical hit somewhere in this fight will get us through with this strategy, so technically we can reset for that. Now, I do want to see what kind of range Pursuit gets, given that it's also super effective and it's much stronger than Mud Slap, but also using our lower special attack stat. Let's just see. Yeah, that is definitely weaker than the Mud Slap. So Pursuit is basically just worthless here. And this fight really comes down to not getting damaged by the Bayleaf, because after this, we would have to crit both of the remaining Pokemon in order to get through. Now, with that being said, I think that we can add on some better moves to get through the last couple Pokemon, and that might actually improve this one quite a bit. So now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to add on Fire Punch here. The logic is actually pretty simple. Number one, it's super effective against the Bayleaf, so it might actually end up doing more damage than Headbutt. We'll test that out, but also because it will be super effective against that final Magnemite, and that might just be what we need to one-shot that Pokemon if we can get back there. So let's just test this a couple times. So let's just see the range with Fire Punch on Bayleaf. It does 24 damage, making this a 3-hit KO. Bayleaf goes Reflect, so there's nothing to do but stick with Fire Punch here. Then it misses a Razor Leaf, so we do get through on decent health. Out comes the Zubat, we Headbutt, and it gets a flinch, but this turns out to be a 3-hitter due to the Reflect. Still, we do take that Pokemon down. Magnemite is out. Let's just see what the Fire Punch does. It still does not one hit, so we're still going to need a crit somewhere in order to get this one to go. So this time we get Poison Powder instead from the Bayleaf, and then we get the nice flinch there on the Zubat, so we're back to Magnemite again. Just need the crit, do not get it. We really wish we had a move like Focus Energy here at this point, but then again, the extra turn probably would be too much for us to get through anyway. Here we do crit the Bayleaf, so we are able to take it down, but because it used Reflect and I wasn't paying enough attention, we actually ended up taking yet another turn to knock that one out. So yeah, we still lose. This time we get a nice critical hit on the Bayleaf and it misses a Poison Powder, so we knock it out in only 2 hits. That brings us to the Zubat. It goes Bite after we Headbutt, but I think that's fine. We still have 26 HP remaining for the Magnemite. If it hits us with Sonic Boom, we're obviously dead after the curse, and unfortunately it does manage the hit. If it had missed Sonic Boom, which is also a 10% chance there, or we got a crit, we would have won. This time we crit on the Zubat and on the Bayleaf, allowing us to get to the final Pokemon with good HP. So even if it had landed a Sonic Boom, it wouldn't have knocked us out. We finally managed to get through the rival. That was terrible though. Now, I don't think that Hidden Power Dark would have actually made that fight all that much better, because we could see that we weren't like in a situation where a crit would one-shot with the Pursuit, so we're probably still just getting cursed either way. But hey, Poison Powder and not getting hit after that by the Bayleaf, and then one-shotting there against the Zubat got us through. Now we have to see if we can get through the gym, though. I'm not as confident here, given the fact that we're going to be stuck with just Mud Slap. And Fire Punch definitely does less, because Mud Slap is one-shotting against these Ghastlies from full health, or at least getting the range to one-shot them, whereas the Fire Punch is a 2-hit KO no matter what we do. And this is honestly one of those spots where you wish you had something like Soft Sand, but we don't, so we're just going to have to hope that this turns out to be enough, because otherwise with Curse on, we're just not going to have enough turns to knock everything out. And now via level up, we could learn all of the elemental punches, but I'm going to skip Thunder Punch for now. Same for Ice Punch. I think we can just learn those moves later if we actually need them. For now, we know they're not doing enough damage to these ghosts. This is all about the Mud Slaps here. So let's give the Mint Berry and get into this fight and just see if we can find a way through. And currently we are 1 point in speed slower than the Gengar, so theoretically we could go agility as well in order to outspeed there, but I'm going to try going all in on attack first. Here the first Ghastly is a 2-hitter and it curses us, so we get to the Haunter and do about half, but we're on a timer already. We get to Gengar where it lands the first Hypnosis. We land our first Mud Slap after waking up and did 20 damage. That means that this is going to be a 4-hit KO without a crit. Of course, it hypnoses us out. It hits Hypnosis after that, meaning that we simply lose. But this range might be borderline impossible just due to the fact that we're getting such little damage from this move, Mud Slap. So honestly, this might be a spot for a Gold Berry rather than the Mint Berry to see if maybe a heal in the middle of the battle gives us enough turns to go. Let's get into it and find out. At this point, we're basically just banking on Mud Slap to stop the opponent from hitting Hypnosis, and then we can heal up with our Gold Berry. So we do manage to get through the Gengar. We're to the final Haunter here. We don't quite do half though, and it goes Spite on us. So now we have no PP left in Mud Slap. I think it's a critical hit with Fire Punch or we lose, and we do not get the critical hit, so we lose. So the only other strategy I can think of right here is to switch out Fire Punch for Ice Punch, because with this move, what we could try to do, of course, is to freeze an opponent, and that might be the actual strategy for getting through this one. Now on the first Ghastly, I don't think it's guaranteed to curse. I think it could go Lick or Spite or something, but we don't get that luck here. And here we even get Nightshade from the Haunter, which is not what we want to see. Now let's just see the range with Ice Punch. Obviously it does very little damage, only 14 damage there, so it would be a 5-hit KO on the Haunter. So it's not a situation where we want to really use Ice Punch for damage. It's rather a situation where we want to use Ice Punch to try to avoid getting statused. So I think I'm resetting here to try to get a run where the first Ghastly does not go for Curse. We get it here. It goes for Lick instead, so we knock that Pokemon out. That buys us a few turns. Now we can go for the Mud Slap on the Haunter. Now this Pokemon curses, but that means we're getting through to the Gengar with better HP. Unfortunately, it does put me to sleep though, so we would need to not be put to sleep in the run that we also don't get a curse turn 1 from the Ghastly. Here it tried to go Spite instead, which is pretty good for us. That allows us to knock out the Haunter in 2 hits after it goes Curse, but because we don't have a Mint Berry on, we're simply going down against the Gengar. This time the Haunter tries to go Hypnosis though, so we get through to the Gengar with no curse on, and now the play is Mud Slap because we want to get through this Pokemon ideally without taking any damage. When it's on such low health, we can switch to Ice Punch to knock it out. That brings us to the final Haunter. We still have 3 Mud Slaps. It goes Nightshade, we Mud Slap again. This is a 3-hit KO. Fortunately, even though it spited on us to get rid of all of our Mud Slaps, we still have Ice Punch, so we finally managed to knock Morty out. Is that reasonable? I don't know. You guys tell me. But if the strategy is that he can use something other than Curse with his first Pokemon, which he can, I don't know exactly what the percentages are in Morty's AI, how often he's going to use Curse versus going for Lick or Spite with the first Pokemon, but we've seen it happen. So resetting for that luck clearly is reasonable, or resetting for a critical hit to just one-shot the first Ghastly, certainly reasonable. And then the Haunter, I think, is just randomizing between using Hypnosis and using the Curse. So if if you just get a Hypnosis and it misses, which it will miss most of the time, then you can knock that Pokemon out and have a reasonable shot of getting through the Gengar as long as it doesn't hit. The Mud Slap is helping there, so I don't know the exact mathematical odds of getting through that fight. They're probably not very good, but it is possible to win there with a Hitmonchan. So we're going to let this Pokemon continue. It really needs to get to Mach Punch ASAP so it has the same type move. That being said, we do at least have a lot of coverage with the elemental punches in the next section, though they're pretty weak on this Pokemon. So we'll have to see if they actually bring any advantage or not. But with that, we have one Hitmon left. Let's check in on Hitmonlee and see how he goes. So Hitmonlee is coming in with Jump Kick, Meditate, Swift, and Mud Slap. And the one advantage I guess it has is that while it also doesn't get Dig, it is going to be able to use Meditate to increase its attack stat. So we can theoretically get better ranges with our Mud Slap in the situations where we have to use it by simply using that move. And who knows, maybe that just gives us the ranges, like even if we get cursed, maybe by setting up one or two of those Meditates, Jump Kick does enough to the rest of the team on rival number 3, or maybe it allows us to just get better ranges with the Mud Slap on Morty. We'll just have to see. For now, let's just get through the Kimono Girls. I'm also going to go do the Lighthouse because I think it's just required here. And here we could learn Focus Energy. I'm actually going to skip this move. I think I'm better off with my attacking moves and with Meditate. That's my opinion. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think Meditate's actually the better move. So rival number 3, attempt 1. I'm going to come in just as I am and just try to go Mud Slap here on this first Haunter. Let's see the range. Mud Slap does less than half. It curses and we knock it out on the next turn. Out comes Bayleaf. I'm going to Jump Kick once. We do about half right there. It uses Reflect, which is not ideal, but we're still going to be able to knock this Pokemon out. Out comes the Zubat. We'll go Swift, which does less than half here. So we would need a crit there, but then Jump Kick would just one-shot against the final Magnemite. So what I'm going to try to do instead is to set up one Meditate, because we're going to get cursed here anyway. Actually, it goes Spite. That's actually pretty lucky, but we get cursed after that after using one of our Mud Slaps. But that should give us a better range here on the Bayleaf. It's still not a one-hitter, but we're going to get through much faster. And now with the attack boost, we managed to one-shot the Zubat there. That brings out the Magnemite. We Jump Kick. That's an easy victory. So we get through the rival on the second attempt. And I honestly think that there's a situation, especially if we can outspeed against that Gengar, which we're currently in a speed tie, that if we just set up all of the Meditates at the beginning of the fight with Morty, we can probably sweep even with Mud Slap. But let's see if that's actually the case or not. And here via level up, we even get to learn High Jump Kick. I'm definitely learning this move. We will forget Jump Kick to have High Jump Kick. Obviously, we could take crash damage, but as long as the move hits, it's basically as strong as it gets with fighting type moves. So I think it will give us a significant advantage on both Jasmine and Price, and even should be pretty good against Chuck in his gym. So yeah, I'm hopeful that that will actually work out. But now we have made it to Morty himself. I think this is a mint berry spot, and like I said, I think the strategy is going to be to set up a couple of Meditates at least on the first Ghastly and just see if we can sweep. Let's see if it works or not. So turn 1, I'm just going to go Meditate. He goes Spite, which is perfectly fine. I'm just going to keep meditating while he does that. In fact, I'm going to set up a total of 4 Meditates here, I think, even with the curse on. Now let's Mud Slap to one-shot that Pokemon. We'll Mud Slap on the Haunter, getting a one-hit KO. Mud Slap on the Gengar is not a one-hitter, and it hits us with Shadow Ball. So we would have needed at least one more Meditate in order to one-hit KO the Gengar. So basically, we're going for 5 Meditates here if we can get it to go. The other factor is that we cannot get paralyzed by this Ghastly while we're setting up. Otherwise, I think that's just a reset. So rather than a Mint Berry, this might be a spot for the Paralyzed Cure Berry in order to try to get through that way. But the other possibility is just to go for for fewer meditates here, with the idea being that we can hopefully just get to the point where we're able to one-shot both of the Haunters and then just hope for better luck against that Gengar. So here we still have decent enough health, but it is going to just go Shadow Ball every time there. So this time I just went 2 meditates. We do over half to the Gengar. It misses Hypnosis, so we knock it out right there. Out comes the final Haunter, and it is a one-hit KO. So if you just go 2 meditates, you actually are dealing enough to at least do over half to the Gengar, and that's all you actually need. Then it's just about 1 Hypnosis miss and not getting paralyzed, and you're good to go with this Hitmonlee. So with that done, all of the Hitmons do get through, as well as Marowak. Now it's time to get into a lot more random kind of Pokemon. Let's start with our normal types. We've got Lickitung and Stantler here. I'm not sure how Lickitung's gonna do, but let's go ahead and test it out. So Lickitung is coming in with the Rollout Defense Curl already on the moveset, as well as Lick and Mud Slap, but I think the Rollout Defense Curl is really all we need. We should be able to just crush this section. That's my prediction, so I'm not even going to waste time with a lot of other things. I don't think we're ever going to outspeed the Haunters or the Gengar, so the Quick Claw and the Rollout strat is the way to go, I think. Now we do get to learn Stomp via level up, giving us the same type move, and the question is just, do we want to forget Mud Slap or Lick? Honestly, I don't see Lick having that much value. It's only a 20 base power move. Yes, it's super effective against Ghosts, but I think the Rollout's more than enough to get through them. So I'm going to forget that move to learn Stomp, and now we have a better same type move. So now let's make our way into rival number 3. I'm not going to go down to the Lighthouse just yet. Let's just simply add on the Quick Claw and see if we can manage to win here. So basically turn 1, I'm going to set up Defense Curl as we get cursed, and then let's see what we do with the Rollout. So going to take 2 hits to knock out the Haunter, but we do manage to get through. Magnemite's out next. It's still going to take 2 hits from Rollout to knock out that Pokemon. We are slower than the Zubat, and we simply get destroyed. The fact that we're slower than everything is probably the real issue there. So let's at least go gain a couple levels and just see. Maybe we could outspeed Zubat there. I'm honestly not sure though. We are pretty darn slow. And after the level ups, we're only up to 31 speed. So I'm pretty sure we're outsped by everything except Magnemite. So this actually could turn out to be pretty terrible. So here, let's get into this fight again and just see. I'm actually going to try to Mud Slap here just to see the range. It's going to take 2 Mud Slaps to knock out the Haunter. Of course, out next comes the Magnemite, and it's going to be a 2-hitter on this Pokemon with Mud Slap as well. But now we can start setting up the Rollout on the Zubat, but we flinch due to the bite. We can see 2 hits from Rollout will knock this Pokemon out, however. So I think it's pretty clear that we need a different setup here. I think the Haunter's only going to go Curse against a Lickitung here. Here we do get much closer to knocking out the Magnemite though. And if we could just get a Quick Claw to activate in the right spot, we might actually get the range. So we get through to Magnemite on better health this time and knock it out. That brings out the Zubat, of course. It goes Bite and flinches us. We also need to avoid the flinch against that Zubat. This time we do knock out Zubat though. We've made it to Bayleaf. We get the Quick Claw to activate and we one-shot with the Rollout. We did crit on the very first Haunter, but hey, we'll take it. We managed to actually get through. That was insanely lucky. I don't think you actually get that level of luck very often, so I'm not very confident in this Pokemon. That being said, as a normal type, we're at least immune to damaging ghost type moves, so we don't have to worry quite as much in Morty's gym about anything other than Curse. And once the Rollout builds up enough, it should be perfectly fine to just one-shot opponents and avoid getting that Curse. But we are going to be slower than everything, which could be an issue. Now we could level up to learn Wrap, but I just did a full game solo run with a Dragonite using only wrapping moves. I'm going to tell you right now, I am never putting Wrap on a Pokemon's moveset ever again. So we will not learn Wrap here. Let's stick with our Rollout strategy to try to get through. I am unsure if that Dragonite video is going to come out before or after this episode. It's already recorded and edited, actually. It's up on the channel already. It's just waiting to be released. I'm trying to get ahead on my recording schedule right now because I have a very busy summer coming up and I don't want to leave you guys hanging too much without content. But yeah, sometimes I put myself through pain for reasons. So anyway, just keep your eyes peeled for that if that's something that you're interested in. And otherwise, let's get back to this Lickitung action. We have made it to Morty. Defense curl plus rollout is my strat. Let's see if it actually works. Now here I expect to be outsped by everything, so I don't think the quick claw is the way to go. I think we just go mint berry and hope that that is enough. So here turn 1, of course, we're going to go defense curl. We get cursed by the first Ghastly, nothing to do there. But now rollout does get the KO. Out comes the Haunter. It goes for hypnosis. We use the mint berry, then we miss our rollout. We hit the next turn, but then we get put to sleep, and that's the end of that first attempt. Now the thing is, usually we're outspeeding at least one Pokemon on the team, so we don't have to miss as many hypnosises, but here we definitely need Gengar to miss. It does not miss, and that's again basically the end of the run. Back to the Gengar again, and yet again it hits. And the whole reason why we have to give up here is because between Dream Eater and Curse, we're simply going to go down every time. So I think this is a run where we can't miss a single rollout, and we can't have a single hypnosis actually hit us if we're actually going to win this fight, except for the one hypnosis that we can heal with the mint berry. This time we do get the hypnosis miss from Gengar, so it is a one-shot with the powered up rollout. That brings out the final Haunter, which can't do anything against a normal type, so it goes down. So finally we do get through with Lickitung. It's not super consistent because of our lack of speed. Now with our moveset as it is, I think our best play in the next section is to go to Price first. For Jasmine, I think we're going to have to add something like Fire Punch to get through, and we're going to be going normal type moves and maybe Thunder Punch in order to get through Chuck. We'll just have to see, but for now we are moving on. So that brings us to Stantler, a Pokemon that we've actually seen a full game solo run with already, so we kind of know the results here, but let's test this out properly. The big advantage that we have is that we have Hypnosis, and unlike that Lickitung, we're not that slow with this Pokemon, so we should actually be able to put some opponents to sleep, and that could be the key here. And we are, of course, faster than the Haunter, so I think there's nothing to do but go straight to the rival here and just see if we can manage to get through him with the sleep strats. Nightmare is also an option here, and if we just need to deal more damage, we can obviously learn a same type move like Headbutt in order to get through here. But I'm going to try to go with my moveset as it is right now. We've only got Mud Slap to affect the ghosts, but I think that's going to be fine. Let's just see. So attempt number 1 against the rival, we're going Hypnosis first on the Haunter. We miss, so then I'm just going to try to knock it out. With the Curse on, I think we're probably just going to lose, but that's fine. We can lose the first attempt and just come back and try again. Let's just test the ranges out here. Swift on the Zubat is going to be a 2-hit KO as we get confused. We knock ourselves out, so we end the first run. This time instead though, we put the Haunter to sleep so we can start Mud Slapping here. It looks like it might be a 3 or 4 hit KO though. So it does wake up and use Curse, but we're getting through at least on better health. So Magnemite is still a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to take it down. Zubat comes out, we go Swift, still looking like a 2-hitter as we get confused by Confuse Ray, and then Bite takes us out. So we're clearly losing that attempt, but I think I can just upgrade my normal type move. Let's add on Headbutt here and just see what kind of range we get after that. This time we do manage to get through a Haunter without Curse on full health. We can still Mud Slap here on the Magnemite. We take a Sonic Boom but knock it out in 2. Now to the Zubat, we can go Headbutt, and we just barely miss the range to get a 1-hitter here. We knock it out on the next turn. We are confused going to the Bayleaf, but we can try to knock this Pokemon out with Headbutt. We get a nice flinch, and it's going to take 2 more hits. The Razor Leaf does not knock us out, so we get through and get to level 21. Just like that against the rival. Even in the slow level up group, Stantler is capable of winning that fight, as long as you just get a long sleep on the first Haunter. And here we're faster than everything except the Gengar on the Morty team, so I think we're fine to just go into the gym. Let's see how this actually goes though. So here as we come into the Morty fight, I think the strategy is just as simple as we need to sleep the first 2 Pokemon to avoid any status or curse from them. And if we can get that, then I think we have reasonable shots of getting through the rest of the team, because it's not like he's going going to get Hypnosis on us very often, so I think that's the luck I'm going to reset for here. We're also fine if we get a non-damaging move from this first Ghastly, which we did, so we can just knock it out in 2 turns. Out comes the first Haunter. We land the Hypnosis here. I'm going to Leer it once, and I believe we should get a 2-hit range with our Mud Slap. We do, so that brings out the Gengar. It lands Hypnosis on me. It's going for Dream Eater, and that Dream Eater just does so much damage from Gengar, and then we get put back to sleep even when we wake up, so we lose the first attempt. Still, I think this is just a matter of a Mint Berry, and we're basically good to go. So back to Gengar with the Mint Berry on. It hits the first Hypnosis, but we wake up, we put it to sleep now. I am going to Leer on this Pokemon a couple times, and then go into the Mud Slaps, hoping that then it won't be able to hit me with its own Hypnosis. It takes 3 hits to knock that Pokemon out, but we do get through. We're to the final Haunter that can't actually do anything against us. It's going to go for things like Spite, so we'll just put it to sleep and now go for the Mud Slap after a Leer, and this is a 2-hit KO. So we do in fact manage to get through Morty. It's not perfectly consistent with Stantler by any means, but we do manage to get it to go without too much luck there. The Hidden Power Dark is definitely the main play. We could have gone Nightmare there as well without going into OP unreasonable TMs, but I think that's basically it as far as strategies there. Still, we get through, so 2 more Pokemon added to the pass column. So now with our normal types through, we have a bunch of water types to take on, but before I do that, I'm going to try one of our channel member picks. It's time to see how that Rhydon up there does in this section of the game. So I want to give a massive thank you to Chad Powers for supporting this Rock Slide and Rhydon, and we're coming into this section with Rollout, Fury Cutter, Stomp, and Rock Slide. I think the Stab Rollout is actually going to be pretty darn good here. We don't really learn any good level up moves, of course, but we also have access to things like Dig if we absolutely need it, and we can go Elemental Punches as well if we need them, but I think this moveset's going to be enough, so I'm just going to make my way to the Rival 3 fight as quick as possible. Let's just see if we can roll out to get through that fight. But honestly, Rock Slide might just be strong enough to just one-shot opponents anyway, since it, I think, is as strong as 3 turns of rollout being built up. So we'll test that out as well. The only real issue that I predict here is the 4 times weakness to grass and the fact that we're not going to outspeed anything. Now, the slow level up group also does mean we're under leveled here, and a Pokemon like Vaporeon using Water Gun can do massive damage to us. In fact, it nearly one-shots us from full health. Still, we do manage to get through with 2 hits, so it is possible to win that fight, but it's definitely not pretty. A critical hit from that Water Gun, which I got on the first attempt against that last Kimono girl, just completely destroyed me. That makes me worried about the Bayleaf with its Razor Leaf. We might not stand a chance of getting through this, or it might be an issue of needing that Quick Claw to activate right there. We'll try the Rival a couple times here as we are, and if it's not possible, we'll be running down to that Lighthouse where we're only going to gain like 1 level because we're in the slow level up group. So this could turn out to be a massive wall. Still, I'm going to test it out. We get the Quick Claw to activate, and Rock Slide one-shots there against the very first Haunter, and the Quick Claw activated again on Bayleaf. We did about half with the Rock Slide. Problem is that it one-shot us with a Razor Leaf from full health. So we're definitely not surviving at this point. Who knows, maybe it could become a range or something if we go down to the Lighthouse. We'll just have to see. But that was 2 Quick Claw activations in a row, and we still lost. So definitely it's not looking pretty for this Pokemon. So back again after the Lighthouse, let's just see the ranges now. We start setting up Rollout here on the Haunter, and then we get paralyzed from Lick. So clearly we're not getting through on this one. But I do kind of want to see if one of our build-up moves can manage to get the luck in order to knock out this Bayleaf. Obviously, if we're on anything less than full health and we don't get the Quick Claw to activate, we simply go down though. Still, it could be a situation where we just need to build up a ton of Fury Cutter here on the first Haunter. The problem, of course, is that that Curse is going to keep us from being able to do that effectively. So the only build-up move we can really go for is the Rollout, and I'm pretty sure that since that is a 2-hit KO on the Haunter, it will end up in the situation where it's just like using Rock Slide on the Bayleaf, but let's just see. That time we did just barely manage to survive against the Bayleaf, and that gives me a little bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, we can get this to go. Here we survived the first hit from Bayleaf with 3 HP, but we're gonna have to get a Quick Claw activation there on both the Haunter and Bayleaf to have any shot here. We do get the Quick Claw against the Haunter there. We get a Razor Leaf miss from Bayleaf and a critical hit. Oh, that is ridiculous, but we do manage to get the luck to get through. Now we can go for basically anything because, while yes, Magnemite's not gonna take super huge damage from us, we still 2-shot it with our Rock Slide, and we Rock Slide and 1-shot against the Zubat. That is insane. We actually managed to beat the rival, but that was probably not deserved, Chad Powers, I'm gonna say right now. The fact that we got that level of luck is just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. But who knows? Maybe that's all we actually needed to progress in the game. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think these rock types are going to be in serious trouble in the next part of the game, but we'll deal with that when we get there. For now, we are on to Morty, where we can just spam Rollout, I think, and get an easy victory. So going into the Morty fight, I'm just going to give the Mint Berry here. I think this is the play. We just need to avoid the sleep. I think Rollout's going to do enough, but let's get into it and find out. So Morty attempt number 1, we roll out against the Ghastly after it uses Lick, then it curses and goes down. Haunter's out next. It hits the Hypnosis, but we use the Mint Berry and 1-shot there. We need a miss from the Gengar with its Hypnosis. We don't get it. And now Dream Eater just does too much damage because we have such low special. Let's try this one again though. This time the Gengar comes out second after we knock out the first Ghastly. Now we get Nightshade from the first Haunter and knock that one out. Second Haunter comes out and misses Hypnosis. So we actually do beat Morty within a reasonable number of attempts there. It was just a matter of getting the Rollout to build up. So yeah, Morty proves yet again to be much easier than rival number 3, but honestly, we just have to look ahead, and we got Chuck and Jasmine coming up, who are both super effective, and even Price with his ice type moves, because we're also a ground type, is super effective. This could be tough in the next section. We're just gonna have to see if there's any possible way to get through. The one thing that helps us against Jasmine is that the first 2 Pokemon on our team are Magnemites, and we do not have to worry about Thunder Wave there. So that could actually help us. We could get a situation where we build up Rollout a ton before we get to the Steelix, and then it does enough damage, or that we can use Dig in order to get through that. We're just gonna have to see how it goes. Chuck, I'm honestly not sure what we're gonna do. We're just hoping that that defense stat is high enough. But for now, hey, Chad Powers, thank you again for your support. Already 6 months here as a channel member. I really appreciate you. But now that we've seen how lucky Rhydon can possibly get, it's time to move on to our water types. And we're going to start off with the Kingdra, since it is the only kind of mixed dragon type here. And then we'll come back down to check on the Seadra, Seaking, and Starmie all together and see how they go. First up, Kingdra. Now, Kingdra has been giving me a lot of trouble in my last few full game solo runs, just because of the fact that it effectively has no type weaknesses. When you get to Claire, you usually don't have dragon type moves to use against it, so it basically is at best neutrally affected by everything you do. And here, it might be good. We'll just have to see. We've got Swift, Smokescreen, Leer, and Water Gun. Obviously, Surf is coming in, and we will not get to the level to get Twister in this section. So outside of Surf, if that doesn't get us through, we're just going to end up using OP generic TMs here. We'll just have to see. But I think the first step is just to destroy the Kimono Girls and get access to our powered up move. And now that we get access to Surf, I'm going to be pretty liberal about adding this move, I think, because there's just nothing else that I think is going to get us through that Haunter very well. Like, I expect that the Water Gun is going to be doing significantly less than half here. So let's test it one time. We might need to go to the lighthouse, but we are already faster and we have at least really good stats. So let's see if this is enough. So first up against the Haunter, I'm going for the water gun, and yeah, it does less than half here. So that's going to be a 2-hit KO after the curse. Magnemite comes out, we go water gun. Of course, we do less than half here as well. We actually do get the 2-hit range there though. Next, we've got the Zubat, where this one is also looking like a 2-hitter. We get the range, very nice. And now Swift on the Bayleaf is all that we've got, and we're just not going to do enough damage with the curse to get through. So clearly that does not work. Still, I'm just going to slap on Surf here. We'll learn it over Water Gun, and let's see how that affects the ranges. First up, of course, we've got the Haunter. We go Surf, and that is not a 1-hitter, but we get a Lick. So we get a KO without any curse on. We could learn Water Gun via level up here. We will not. We'll skip that move. Now against the Magnemite, Surf is a 1-hit KO. We're going to stick with Surf on the Zubat, also getting a 1-hit KO. So we're on 69 HP. Very nice. As we go to the Bayleaf. And now I think Swift is enough. We get a crit turn 1. We get poisoned by Poison Powder. And then it crits with its Razor Leaf. But since Razor Leaf is only neutrally effective here, it's not a big deal. We easily get through that fight. What we can say, I think, pretty definitively though, is that we're gonna have to go to the lighthouse with Seadra when we get there, because it is going to be weak against that Razor Leaf, and it's gonna need to learn Surf as well, and possibly Headbutt. Or I can't remember if we went Return with that Pokemon or not in the previous section, but Headbutt or Return might be the play there. Still, we managed to get through, so let's make our way into Morty's gym, where I'm just gonna spam Surf the whole way. I think we're gonna be able to KO these Pokemon pretty easily, so let's get straight to the gym leader. And now with the Mint Berry on, we're ready to try our first attempt against Morty. Let's just see how this goes. We were one-shotting against all the randos with Surf, so let's see what it does here against the Ghastly. It is a 1-hit KO. Out comes the first Haunter. We go Surf again, also getting a 1-hitter. Now we've got the Gengar. Surf, since we outspeed, does over half. We get the Hypnosis Miss and knock it out on the next turn. That brings us to the final Haunter, where we go Surf, and it's a 1-hit KO. So Kingdra just completely destroys this section after it gets Surf. Basically, it doesn't need to worry about anything else. Of course, going to the lighthouse was also an option to make the Haunter on Rival 3 a little bit more consistent. We might have been able to one-shot after gaining a level or two, but here we get through just fine. So now let's step down and see how Seadra does, and then we will also look at Seaking and Starmie. So Seadra does come in with Water Gun, Smokescreen, Leer, and Headbutt, but we did not have to go all the way up to getting Return in the last section. Now Headbutt could be good here. If we can just use Headbutt, for example, to flinch against that Bayleaf, we may get a range where we can get through there. We are reasonably fast, so I think that is a possibility. And then we Surf everything else. Let's see if that actually works. And after going down to the lighthouse and getting access to Surf on our moveset, we're ready to come and fight against our rival with Seadra, and we're just gonna have to see if this works out the way I think it will. We are faster than everything, so that's not gonna be an issue in this one. It's just a matter of how much damage we do. First up, we've got the Haunter. We go Surf, and this just barely misses the 1-hit KO. That could be a range, so we may be resetting there. Magnemite comes out next. We just one-shot it with a Surf. Bayleaf is out after that. We're going Headbutt, but then it hits Razor Leaf. It does not one-shot us, but with the curse on, we will go down. Now, of course, the OPTM Blizzard is available if we absolutely need something for the Bayleaf, but I'm going to try to get through with this set a bunch of times before I go into that. This time, we actually get the 1-hit KO on the Haunter, so that's clearly a range on that first Pokemon. We can, again, always get to the Bayleaf after that, so this could be possible. We get a flinch turn 1, we get a Poison Powder miss turn 2, it Razor Leafs turn 3, so we knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Zubat, where we can just go Surf. That's a 1-hitter, so there we go. We actually get through with Seadra without that many attempts. Definitely it's going to require going to the lighthouse to get those extra levels though, to get that range on the Haunter, and then you're just going to have to reset for the flinches against the Bayleaf. Flinches or non-damaging moves, both are fine, but you really don't want to see Reflect there. That's probably the worst case. The Poison Powder Miss was basically the best case scenario there. So that brings Seadra to Morty. We're going to throw the Mint Berry on, and this one might not turn out to be too bad. We'll just have to see. First up, we've got the Ghastly, which we easily surf and just one-shot. Let's see if we one-shot the first Haunter here. Sure enough, we do. It goes down. Gengar is out now. We are faster, and we've got a Mint Berry. Let's see if it's just a 2-hit range. It is. So he lands the Hypnosis, but it doesn't matter. He goes down the next turn, and we've made it to the final Haunter. This Pokemon basically can't do anything. It just gets one-shot anyway. So sure enough, we beat Morty nice and easy with our Seadra. It's also much better than, say, the Rhydon we were doing previously, that we're not just one-shot every time by the Bayleaf. So we can get through with this Pokemon without needing too much luck. I feel like this one is actually pretty reasonable after the Lighthouse. Now we have to check in on Seaking though and see if it can match up. Now, Seaking, of course, knows Peck here, which can hit Ghosts and is physical, but is not a same type move. And then we've got Horn Attack, Tail Whip, and Supersonic to round out our moveset. I think we definitely need Surf here, but that's all that we really have available here without going OPTMs is just Surf. So we're going to have to hope that that is enough if we're going to get through without going for any OPTMs and putting this Pokemon into that secondary category. So let's get in and find out if it's possible or not. So after getting access to Surf, I'm going to learn this move immediately, and I'm actually going to keep Supersonic on the moveset. I think that actually will give us a higher chance in this next fight, because we might need to confuse the Bayleaf in order to get a turn or two of it hitting itself in confusion in order to actually progress in that fight. I also think I'm going down to the Lighthouse with this one because I think we can predict the ranges already. That Bayleaf is not going to be pretty. Now, we are faster than the Haunter at this point, but I think the real kicker is that our special attack is significantly lower than our physical attack stat, and yet we don't have any really good physical attacking moves to use right here. So we're gonna have to see how much damage the Surf actually does here against the Haunter. Surf is not a one-hit KO, it's not even close, so Haunter uses Curse. Out comes the Magnemite. We'll go Surf right here, and we do get the one-hitter on that Pokemon. That brings out the Bayleaf, and technically Peck is just a little bit stronger here, and it appears to be a 3-hit KO. We get growled by the Bayleaf, which is not great. Then it hits the Razor Leaf, and we would have needed at least a crit to get through there. Let's try this again. This time we get Lick from the Haunter, so we get through without Curse. We can still one-shot there against the Magnemite. That brings out the Bayleaf yet again. We're going Peck, it goes Reflect against us. But we didn't take that much damage from the Razor Leaf, so we can knock that Pokemon out. We would level up and learn Flail here. I'm gonna skip that move. And here on the final Zubat, I'm just gonna go Surf and get the one-hit KO. So we do manage to get through. Our reasonably high special defense was the key there. Without that, I think we're getting completely destroyed by the Bayleaf. But since it didn't get any crits and we have that slightly better special defense, we were able to survive with Seaking and move on to the gym. I think the randos are not going to be an issue, so we're straight to Morty with that Mint Berry, and let's see if we can actually beat him. So Morty attempt number 1, we go Surf on the first Ghastly, and that is a one-hit KO. Out comes the first Haunter. Surf is also a one-hitter there. Very nice. Now we are slower than this Gengar, so we're gonna have to dodge at least some Hypnosis. We do have the Mint Berry on, and we did about half with that first Surf, so as long as the range stands up, we get the KO right there. Final Haunter comes out. We nearly one-shot it. I'm just gonna peck it down. There we go. We beat Morty on the first attempt with Seaking. He had no shot there. And now with Surf, I think we're gonna do reasonably well in the next section. Obviously, we don't have to worry about ice moves from Price. The water type moves, as long as we can one-shot with Surf against the two Magnemites, Jasmine shouldn't be an issue. So it really just comes down to Chuck and his Poliwrath. But I think we have a reasonable shot of getting through. We'll just have to see. But now we have one last water type to deal with, Starmie, and let's see how it goes in this section of the game. Now Starmie already knows Bubble Beam, Swift, Recover, and Tackle. Obviously we get Surf, and that might be the only thing that we want to add on here, maybe over Tackle, since Tackle and Swift are kind of redundant on the moveset. And here we have better special attack than attack, so we're definitely going to be primarily using our water type moves here. So let's just see how we do. We are in the slow level up group, which is a disadvantage, but it might not matter if we can just recover in battle, for example. And here, honestly, because of the fact that Tackle is such a bad move, I'm just going to replace it immediately with Surf. That should give us a nice upgrade, and then we can just make our way straight to the rival and see if we can win at this point. Otherwise, it's down to the lighthouse for one level. That's literally it. So we'll just have to hope that we can get the ranges at this point. So rival number 3, attempt 1. Just going to put Surf in the top slot. And here we do not get the one hitter on the Haunter, but we do get through after it curses. Surf on the Magnemite does good enough damage to get us through that. Here we can go Swift on the Bayleaf, but that didn't do a lot at all. Only 13 damage, making this a 5-hit KO. And then he goes for the Reflect. So we can go like Surf here just to do some damage, but we get knocked out by a critical hit Razor Leaf after that. I think we need to reset and try to not get that Reflect. And honestly, this does not appear to be working at this point. So let's go to that lighthouse and just see, but we might be resetting for a critical hit or at least a non-curse to get through that first Haunter. But really the issue is just that we don't have anything good for the Bayleaf, at least without going into OPTMs. Obviously, the solution there is Blizzard, but we're trying to avoid that at all costs if we can. So we've gone down and gained a level. Let's just see if that affects ranges at all here. We get a critical hit to one-shot the Haunter, so that's a small improvement. Here, Magnemite goes down nice and easy. That brings us to Bayleaf. Swift did 14 damage now. It still goes Reflect. Now it goes Growl. And since we don't have Curse on, we're able to get a crit and just knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Zubat. Surf destroys it. So the first attempt after coming back, I think that was really more about the crit on the first Haunter, and then Bayleaf is not guaranteed to just go for the Razor Leaf, especially because we were on high health, and I think we might have been able to heal stall there a little bit, but we do ultimately get through. We're on the Morty's gym. We're technically weak against ghost type moves, so this could be kind of interesting how he actually fights us. Now I say technically because Lick isn't very strong and Nightshade deals damage based on your level, so the only move that I think is actually a major threat that's a ghost type is of course that Shadow Ball from the Gengar. And it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of range he gets against us, because we have a reasonably good special defense. So I'm not sure he even goes Hypnosis here, so I'm not going to put on the Mint Berry. Let's just fight him as we are. First up, Surf on the Ghastly is a one-hit KO. Haunter number 1 comes out, and it easily goes down. Gengar comes out. We are faster with our Starmie, and we pretty easily knock it out. Now he does, in fact, go for the Hypnosis, though, and he's going Dream Eater into Shadow Ball. Not sure why he went for the Dream Eater there, but now that we know that he will still try to Hypnosis us, let's just go ahead and give the Mint Berry and try this one again. So now when we get to the Gengar, we will go for the Surf and of course do over half. He hits Hypnosis, but the Mint Berry kicks in, so he goes down, and we're to the final Haunter with no damage taken, and Surf is a one-hit KO. So we easily get through Morty on the second attempt. Mint Berry is still required even when you're Psychic type, even though he would have just two-shot us with the Shadow Ball. I guess he knows that he's slower and decides to use the Hypnosis anyway. But with that done, we have now made it through with all of those water types as well, without having to go for OPTMs. Now, this hasn't been a guarantee with water types. We saw last time with Octillery and Mantine, they were having to use some of the OPTMs. We saw with Lantern that it struggled really hard here. So just because you get access to Surf doesn't necessarily make this whole section super easy, even though it is a really strong move. But for today's challengers, at least, it was no issue. And now I think we need to check in on our Mr. Mime. Let's just see how he does. I believe he's got Psychic type moves, so it's going to be pretty easy, I think, to get through this section, but we'll have to see if it actually works out. So Mr. Mime knows Confusion, Barrier, Substitute, and Meditate. I want to see if Substitute prevents us from getting cursed, because if it does, that would be a massive, massive benefit here. And it's also worth noting that Ghost type moves are physical, so Barrier would actually help us here. But now because our only attacking move is Confusion, the issue is that we can't actually damage the Umbreon inside of the Kimono Girls section unless we forget one of our other moves. For now, I'm going to stick with my moveset as it is, and it's really just a question of which would we rather forget, Barrier, Substitute, or Meditate. Honestly, I think Meditate, because I think we'd rather set up the barriers for defense and use Substitute in order to survive, and then just get a lot of turns to knock our opponents out with 2 damaging moves. But for now, let's get into the Rival 3 fight. We're faster than the Haunter, and we one-shot with the first Confusion. That brings us to the Magnemite, which is going to be a multi-hit KO, but we do confuse it here. It hits itself in Confusion, so it goes down at 3 Confusions after that. Zubat obviously just gets destroyed, and that brings out the final Bayleaf. Here, I'm going to set up Substitute just to see. We take damage with that from the Razor Leaf. It goes Reflect, which obviously can't do anything against our Confusion. We survive there against the critical hit Razor Leaf as well, so we managed to get through on the first attempt against the Rival. Really, with just Confusion, that was perfectly fine, but honestly, I'm just thinking that because there's not a badge boost glitch in this generation, at least not a badge boost glitch that you set up with stat boosting moves, Meditate is much weaker here, and we would only really want to use it if we had a really strong physical move to use. And the question is there anything that we would even want to use physical moves against? I can't think of it right off the top of my head, at least, so tell me if it's a mistake, but I'm probably going to forget Meditate in order to learn one of the elemental punches here in order to take down that Umbreon. I think Fire Punch makes the most sense given that it will be super effective against Jasmine, and with that we will at least have a strategy in the next section, because I don't think there's any sort of physical move that we would learn and then want to use the Meditate in order to power up in order to get through the Jasmine fight. So yeah, I think this is the way to go. But that's all in the future. For now, we've made it to Morty. Let's just see if we sweep him with Confusion. First attempt here, we're going to go Confusion on the Ghastly. That is a 1-hit KO. We'll go Confusion on Haunter, also a 1-hitter. Now for the Gengar, I'm kind of interested to see what it's going to do. I'm going to Substitute once here. Of course, it uses Hypnosis, which in this generation can't hit when you're behind a Substitute. So then it goes Shadow Ball and breaks the Substitute, but that's perfectly fine. We're able to avoid the Hypnosis there. Now we can just one-shot the final Haunter and easily get through. We would level up and be able to learn Light Screen, but our special defense is already pretty good. I don't think this is necessary, and same for Reflect. I don't think it's necessary. I think Barrier and Reflect are effectively the same thing. Reflect is just better in Gen 2 if you're going to be like swapping in and out between Pokemon, but since this is a solo challenge, Barrier already has the effect one time of raising your defense to double with a single usage, so I just don't think that move is even necessary. So we will not learn those moves. We'll just keep Barrier and Substitute and see if that is enough to progress in the game. So that leaves only the Umbreon Kimono Girl, and we are just going to add on the move Fire Punch here in order to try to get through her. I'm not sure if it's going to work that well or not, but we have at least good special attack, so let's just see. Attempt number 1, we can just use the Fire Punch to do not quite half. It's going to be a 3-hit KO here, but Pursuit doesn't do that much, so we easily get through, and we can now progress in the game. And here I think we just go straight down to Chuck and destroy his gym with our Stab Psychic type moves. Fire Punch for Jasmine and Price. Think we're basically good to go. So now I'm thinking that we should at least check in on Jynx and see how she does in this section, since she is also a Psychic type Pokemon and reasonably fast, but with Ice type moves, it could prove to be pretty easy here. We'll just have to see. And of course, Jynx has Powder Snow, Lick, Lovely Kiss, and Pound, so we can go for sleep strats here. Lick is technically super effective against ghosts, but honestly, Powder Snow might be enough. It was in the last section, but if it's not, we can always just upgrade that with Ice Punch to get a stronger same type move. Now, fortunately, Lovely Kiss does get us through all of the Kimono girls without any moveset upgrades, so we're ready to make our way to rival number 3. And here we can basically learn Ice Punch or Nightmare if we need a stronger move. I don't think the physical moves are really going to do that much for us. We could replace Pound with Headbutt if we really need to, but otherwise I think we just go with the moveset that we've got and really just we're banking on hitting the Lovely Kiss. Let's see how it actually goes. So first up against the Haunter, I used Powder Snow by mistake, and this will be a 3-hit KO. It's a 2-hitter after the Curse, so here we have to put Quilava to sleep, and even then Pound I don't think it's going to do enough. We got a crit, but then it wakes up, it hits Ember, and we're simply going to go down due to Curse. So let's try to correct the mistake from last time by going Lovely Kiss here. That puts the Haunter to sleep. Now we can go Powder Snow. We can test Lick as well. Lick is definitely weaker, so Powder Snow is the play. We get through this time with no Curse on. Now we can go Lovely Kiss on the Quilava and start going Pound on it. Pound is just really not doing much damage. We get a nice critical hit there. In fact, 2 crits on this Pokemon, allowing us to knock it out with no damage taken. That's insane. Now we do manage to land the Lovely Kiss on this Magnemite. Of course, it resists our Powder Snow, so it takes multiple hits to knock that one out. But now we've got the Zubat, and it managed to knock me out with a bite after a miss. So I think the solution is just to go Ice Punch here. For now, I'm actually going to learn it over Lick, because Lick just seems to be completely useless here. And at least Powder Snow is stronger in battle, so we'll go with this set and just see how it goes. So now we can still go Lovely Kiss on the Haunter. We're just missing so much. So now Ice Punch does over half, but we are out of Lovely Kiss PP, so we're probably losing this attempt anyway. And we need something stronger for that Quilava. So while I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to add on Headbutt here over Pound. That gets us a pretty significant power upgrade on that move as well, and that should help quite a bit here. So now with the Haunter asleep, again, it's just an easy 2-hit KO. Quilava, we can put it to sleep as well. Let's see the range with Headbutt now. That did 17 damage, meaning this would be a 4-hit KO. So as long as it stays asleep, we get through with no damage taken there. Onto the Magnemite, we'll Lovely Kiss this one as well, just because it can do significant damage with that Sonic Boom. Still, Ice Punch is just a 2-hitter, and that brings us to the final Zubat, which we just one-shot, and we have easily beaten the rival after upgrading our moves. And now the question is just, will Ice Punch allow us to easily get through Morty's gym, or is it going to be a little bit random? I do think we're going to need the Mint Berry here just to be safe, because if we don't manage to get the sleep on that Gengar, we might just get knocked out. So let's try this. So while we are faster than everything, I'm not sure if we're even going to one-shot against the Haunters here. So let's get into this and find out, but we might end up needing the Lovely Kiss 2 or 3 Pokemon here. First up, we've got the Ghastly, though. I think Ice Punch will one-shot there. Sure enough, it does. Out comes the first Haunter. I'm just going to go Ice Punch this time, and we do get the 1-hit KO. Gengar's out next. This is where I'm going to Lovely Kiss and now go for the Ice Punch. This is going to be a 2-hitter. We do take it down, however. That brings out the final Haunter, and we get the one-shot. So very nice. We are able to win on the first attempt with Jynx, thanks to Lovely Kiss. And now we're ready to progress in the game. It would be kind of nice if this Pokemon would learn a Psychic type move via level up, but unfortunately there are none available. So we're just stuck with Ice Punch basically, and then physical moves. We can learn Shadow Ball, however, that we just picked up. And if we ever get in a serious bind, I guess we can go Nightmare strats, but we'll have to see how it actually progresses in the next section. Given that we're not going to have anything great for Poliwrath, we really don't have anything great for Steelix. So that fight might be coming down to fishing for freeze luck, because I don't think Mud Slap's gonna do it. We'll just have to see when we get there, but for now, Jynx does move on. So sure enough, we are slowly making our progress through this section of the game, up to 90 Pokemon passing through Morty and Rival number 3, and then you can count another 18 Pokemon getting in with some overpowered TMs like Return or Game Corner TMs, but still that's over 100 Pokemon getting through the first 4 gyms on minimum battles. And now it's time to go to our next set of Pokemon. We've got Scizor and Scyther, and we've got our member pick Pinsir that is running Flail. It's time to see if these Pokemon can actually get through. I mistook last time and said that we were going to do Heracross as well. Heracross was already done. Very big thank you to Redeemed Steve for pointing that out to me in the comments. So we will not be redoing that Pokemon in this one. But for now, let's just get into all of our bug Pokemon and see how they do. We're going to start with the bug steel type in Scizor. Now, Scizor has Pursuit for ghost types, which could theoretically help us here, but our special attack stat is so bad, I'm not sure if it's going to be worth it. Otherwise, we've got Quick Attack, Leer, and Fury Cutter. The real problem is that we don't get anything else for ghosts here other than Hidden Power Dark. So we'll have to test if the Fury Cutter strats can work here. And of course, we can also mess around to see if we can get something like Headbutt or Strength on top of the Quick Attack in order to go, but this is not necessarily going to be an easy Pokemon to get through this section. Now, even if I fail with Scizor here, I'm definitely going to make sure to use the Scyther as well, because unlike Scizor, we don't have a 4x weakness to fire with that Pokemon. But honestly, I'm just not sure how this is actually going to go. And the first sign of how bad it is to be a 4x weak Pokemon to fire is that we can't get through the Flareon Kimono Girl. So we're gonna have to go down and try to get through the Lighthouse, I think, because again, I'm not very confident against the Rival. Curse is probably gonna mess us up too much to go for Fury Cutter strats there, and honestly, outside of that, what do we even have? And now after going down to the Lighthouse, we're still doing less than half to the Flareon, so we need to add on like a berry in order to get through this fight. Now if he manages to do over half to me, we will be able to heal up, but we get burned and he gets a low roll, so we didn't get a heal with the berry in that one. Still, we finally managed to beat that Kimono Girl, but that took forever, and it makes me feel like the Rival's Quillava is gonna be really, really tough here. Now, we should just outspeed against the Haunter, thanks to all the levels that we've gained in this section, but it still might not be enough. So, Rival 3 attempt number 1 here. I'm going to lead off with Pursuit just to see what it does. It does less than half to the Haunter, so that's going to take 2 hits there. We get to Quillava. Quick Attack does 19 damage, so this is going to be a 4-hit KO still, and we simply do not get the luck to get through. So I think we need to upgrade our moveset. I'm going to learn Headbutt over Quick Attack since we're already faster anyway, with the point being to hopefully be able to flinch that Quillava. I think that's the only way we get through. So here we can stick with Pursuit on that first Haunter. Headbutt here does half now. We get a Smoke Screen instead from Quillava, so we knock it out in just a couple hits. Now I think there's nothing to do but go for Headbutt on the Magnemite, but Curse simply takes us down. Once again, we get through that Quillava with no damage taken though. We get a nice flinch from the Magnemite, twice in fact, so we managed to knock that Pokemon out. We level up. We can learn Agility at this point. I'm going to learn Agility over Leer just because we're not super fast, so Agility could actually help. That brings us to the final Zubat, which we one-shot. So we do manage to get through with Scizor. It was not pretty getting through that fight with Scizor, but we can now progress in the game. So now let's get into the gym. Pursuit is going to be pretty rough here, but still, I don't think we've got anything better. We're just going to have to see if we can get it to go. At least it is enough here to take down the Ghastlies on the first trainer though, so that gives me a little more hope. Still, I don't think Pursuit's going to one-shot anything on Morty's team. We're definitely going in with a Mint Berry, and we're just hoping maybe even for some crits. Otherwise, we can try a Fury Cutter strategy to see if it will work. So Morty attempt number 1, I'm going to stick first with the Pursuit. It's a 2-hitter on Ghastly, but then it goes for the Curse on me. Here we get a 2-hit KO range on the first Haunter. Out comes the Gengar, where of course slower, and this looks to be a 4-hit KO. And finally he Shadow Balls when we're on low health just to guarantee that we go down. So that clearly doesn't work. Let's try instead with a Fury Cutter strat. Here of course Fury Cutter is going to build up every turn, so we managed to knock out the Ghastly. We do over half against the Haunter and then knock it out the next turn. Out comes the Gengar. It hits Hypnosis, but we recover with the Mint Berry. This is going to be a 2-hitter, so we do knock that Pokemon out. Final Haunter comes out. It's not a 1-hitter, and then he Nightshades me down. So we will need a critical hit with the Fury Cutter strat somewhere if we're going to win. Unfortunately, we get a critical hit there on the Gengar. That's actually not what we need, because it's this final Haunter that's going to knock us out, and it still takes 2 turns to knock out the Gengar even with the crit. So yeah. We have to reset and try this one again. I think the crit needs to come in on one of the 2 Haunters for it to actually help us. It's also a major factor that we actually have to hit all of the Fury Cutters. I think if we get paralyzed, that's also the end of the run, basically. But here a critical hit does not one-shot against the first Haunter, so even that is not enough. We still are going to need better luck than this to get through. So really, it looks like the crit can only come in on the last Haunter if we're going to get this to go. Now, one other possibility is just to hope that we can get the misses from the Hypnosis and instead have a Gold Berry as our held item. The logic here is that the Gold Berry will heal more damage than we're taking for Curse and maybe allow us to get that 1 extra hit at the end, but we're going to have to dodge, I think, a couple of Hypnosises here. If we get hit by Hypnosis from the Haunter or from the Gengar, it's an auto reset. We finally managed to get to the final Haunter with 31 HP remaining, but still it's going to knock us out on the next turn. However, it goes Spite, and here I think Pursuit is enough, so we do knock that Pokemon out this time. If he just goes Nightshade, we lose. So was that good? No, it was terrible, but we did manage to get through with Scizor. Turns out that Morty is almost a wall there though, and that makes me a little bit nervous for Scyther coming in. I'm not sure how that Pokemon's honestly gonna do, so let's just check it out. So as mentioned, Scyther is a very different Pokemon here in spite of the fact that we're starting with the same moveset that we had on Scizor, because number 1, we're super fast. Number 2, we're only 2 times weak to fire, not 4 times weak to fire. But number 3, we don't resist Ghost. So there's going to be just a lot of weird interplays here. Now we are not going to reach Wing Attack here, so that will not be an option in this section. So basically Headbutt and otherwise maybe Hidden Power Dark, but that's honestly all that we've got to try to add on here. Now I am going to the Lighthouse here because again, we don't have anything great against Ghosts, so that's the part I'm the most worried about. But now with all the levels that we can possibly get, we're at level 23 and ready to go fight against rival number 3, and this could be a tough fight. I've already thrown Headbutt on the moveset just so that we have something stronger, and we are faster here, so that's not the issue. It's just going to be a matter of how much damage we can deal. So first up, we've got the Haunter. Let's go Pursuit. Of course, after Curse, we're going to knock it out in 1 more turn. Magnemite comes out now. We have nothing good here, so I'm just going Headbutt. Goes Thundershock, which does massive damage, and then it simply knocks me out the next turn. So that clearly does not work. What happens if instead we go for Fury Cutter? Here we get paralyzed, so I think that's just a reset, but maybe without paralysis, we can actually set it up enough to do good damage against our opponents. So we do manage to get through there. We one-shot against the Magnemite. Quilava also gets 1-hit KO'd. We level up to learn Agility, but I'm actually going to skip Agility on Scyther. We're already fast enough, I think, so I don't think that gives us any advantage. And here we do not get the 1-hitter with Fury Cutter on the Zubat, but we survive the bite, so just Headbutt to knock it out. And there we go. We get through the rival with the Fury Cutter strats. As soon as you can get a Fury Cutter built up on the Haunter and not get paralyzed by Lick, you're good to go. That's actually kind of surprising, but hey, we'll take it. And with that, it's time to make our way now into the gym, and we'll just see what strategy works here, whether it's going to be Pursuit or it's going to be the Fury Cutter against these Ghosts. The one advantage that we have here is that we are faster than the Gengar, so we won't have to dodge 2 Hypnosises, I think, only 1, and that could make this a lot more consistent. So here I do do think I'll give them Mint Berry this first time. Let's just see how this goes. But we could be resetting here against Morty for a hot minute. So first attempt, let's just see what Pursuit does. We get a critical hit one-shot on the Ghastly. That's nice. Here we do over half against the Haunter. It goes Nightshade, but we get through there with no curse. So now Gengar looks to be a 4-hit KO. It hits the first Hypnosis, and then it hits the second one, and that's basically all she wrote, because we don't have enough special defense. So let's try Fury Cutter strats like we did with Scizor, and just see, and we will just reset anytime we get paralyzed here. So here we are faster than Gengar, but we were on low enough health that we simply went down. I think we have to repeat that Goldberry strategy. So this time we get the Hypnosis Miss from Gengar, allowing us to knock it out. We're to the final Haunter with 49 HP. We survive the Nightshade. We can just go Pursuit since it's 100% accurate, and we have beaten Morty. Was it pretty? Again, no. We took a ton of resets there. You can see the resets on the right side, but we did manage to get through Morty with our Scizor. So that brings us now to our channel member pick, the Flail using Pinsir. We're going to have to see how Sir Flail does here. So let me give a massive thank you to Johnny Plays 911 for supporting this Sir Flail. We've got Vice Grip, Fury Cutter, Focus Energy, and Flail on the moveset. We're about to get Seismic Toss, though that won't help us against Ghosts in this gen. Obviously, we can also learn things like Headbutt and Strength. But that's really it as far as useful TMs. I mean, I guess Rock Smash if we want something for the Magnemite, but that's honestly it. So this could turn out to be really tough because we're actually stuck just using Fury Cutter, but maybe it works out the same way as what we just had with the Scyther. The issue is the slow level up group, and we're not a super fast Pokemon, but we do have a really high attack stat that might not be enough here. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this Sir Flail is go down to the Lighthouse, because while I can get through the Kimono Girls, the fact that we have to use only Fury Cutter against the rival has me a little too nervous to go in there just trying to win immediately with what I've got. So here we've gotten our level up as high as we can get it at this point, and we just have to see if we can actually manage to progress. Now I do have a couple ideas in mind if this turns out to be a major wall. Since this is a channel member pick, we can go just a little further beyond, but first let's see how we do with the moveset that we've got. So first up against the Haunter, we have no choice but to go for the Fury Cutter strat, and we're gonna have to build it up quite a bit and hope to avoid the paralysis. And if we miss, it's simply a reset no matter what. Now we do manage to get through, and then we one-shot the Quilava as well. We one-shot the Magnemite. We know we're probably not going to one-shot here on the Zubat, so I'm going to go Vice Grip. It's still a 2-hitter, but we survive Bite, just like we did with the Scyther. So we managed to get through. It didn't take that many resets to beat the rival. But now the question is, how do we do against Morty? And again, I'm honestly just not sure, but we don't have any other moves to use, at least not really in Gen 2 that I think are very good. It is possible that we could get something from Gen 1 to help us though. But first, let's try Morty with the moveset that we currently have. So we're going Fury Cutter against the first Ghastly. We get paralyzed, so we're just going to reset there. Let's just try this a couple more times. It takes 3 hits from Fury Cutter to knock that Pokemon out. The Haunter is going to be a 2-hit KO. That brings out the Gengar. It simply Shadow Balls and knocks us out right there. We already know that basically the solution here is to have that Goldberry as a held item, but there is another thing that this Pokemon could technically have that would help in this situation. So we're going to make one change here to our moveset by coming in with Swords Dance. Swords Dance is both a level up move in Gen 2 and it is a level up and TM move in Gen 1. So there are theoretically ways you could get it on this Pokemon. Theoretically, you didn't have to have Fury Cutter on your moveset or Flail on your moveset. While I get that Flail is the egg move here, still, you might as well just have Swords Dance on this Pokemon and just get rid of Flail entirely, and you would probably get to this point in the game since you'd be able to boost your attack stat. But what I want to see here is with the Swords Dance, are we able to now get through Morty? Let's test it out. So the logic here is simple. We set up Swords Dance first in order to boost our attack stats significantly. Then at least in theory, we'll be able to build up Fury Cutter even more to do more damage to these opponents. And maybe, just maybe, that actually gives us an advantage. So now as we get to the Gengar, of course, we have to dodge the Hypnosis, but if we can, we might just have a shot here. Fury Cutter is just not quite a one-hitter on this Haunter though, and we're on such low health. So we're going to need a situation where we don't immediately get cursed by the first Ghastly, but instead it goes for something else early on, because that could be the actual issue. This time we get a nice Hypnosis miss from Gengar. We need one more Hypnosis miss and we don't get it. Otherwise, I think we're just cruising at that point. We just sweep the rest of the team. This time we managed to one-shot the Gengar. We could level up and learn Harden here. For now, I'm actually going to learn this move. I think it's better than Flail. And now Fury Cutter one-shots the final Haunter. So it's not super consistent by any means, but the Swords Dance does help there with the ranges, because you can go from needing a 2-hit range on the Gengar to, when you're fully set up, just one-shotting the Gengar as long as it misses Hypnosis. And we're just 1 point speed slower there. You could even make the argument for going one rare candy here in order to make that more consistent, but we do in fact manage to get through. And honestly, outside of Fury Cutter, you could argue that just adding Swords Dance at the beginning of the game would have made this Pokemon perfectly fine to get to this point in the game. Something that I think we could reasonably test, but because it is a level up move here, and the other Pokemon that you need to breed with in order to get Flail is Parasect, which also gets Swords Dance in Gen 1, you could argue for just being able to pass that down via breeding. But like I said, you wouldn't have Fury Cutter on this Pokemon before Bugsy anyway, so if you just added Swords Dance from the start of the game, probably be fine. Anyway, I wanted to test that out. So Johnny Plays, thank you so much for your support, and you're moving on. But I think we might be even adding Submission onto this Pokemon as we go into the next section, because I don't think our current moveset is good enough to get through Jasmine, but Submission plus Swords Dance might be good enough to get it to go. We'll just have to see. For now, Sir Flail does in fact move on. But just like that, we have reached our last 4 Pokemon of today. We have, of course, Magmar, Electabuzz, and Magby, and the channel member pick Elekid that's running Cross Chop. So let's get into these and see how they go. We're going to lead off with the Magmar, then we'll do Electabuzz, and then we'll get to the babies. And Magmar is coming in with Fire Punch, Leer, Smog, and Ember. Headbutt, Mud Slap, and Thunder Punch are also available options if we struggle in this section, especially against the Crocodile. We might need to go with the Thunder Punch in order to get through that Pokemon. So we'll keep those options in our back pocket, but for now, let's just see if this current moveset is enough to progress in the game. But of course, with this moveset, we're struggling even against the Vaporeon here in the Kimono Girls section, so I do think it's time to add a new move. Let's go ahead and learn the move Headbutt. So I'm going to learn Headbutt over Ember since we've already got Fire Punch. There's no reason to have these two moves on our moveset. And let's see if we can get through now against this Vaporeon. So we go Headbutt first and do about 40%. This is going to be a 3-hit KO, but we get the flinch, we survive the Water Gun, and we're able to knock that Pokemon out. So who knows, this might be all that we need given that the Crocodile is only running Water Gun. It might not be that big of a deal, but let's get to the Rival 3 fight and see how it actually works out. So Rival 3 attempt number 1, we're going Fire Punch on the first Haunter and it licks us, so we're going to take Haunter down without any curse. That brings out the Crocodile, of course, where we're going to go Headbutt, and this looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO. We did 20 damage there. It goes Leer against us and then Water Gun, but Water Gun doesn't do that much, so we actually end up taking it down in 3, and that's perfectly fine. We'll go back to Fire Punch for the Zubat. It's still a 2-hit KO, but then we've got the Magnemite and a single Fire Punch will end that Pokemon. So we get through the Rival with really no issues. Just Headbutt for the Crocodile is all that we actually needed. But with that, we can now make our way into Morty's gym, where Fire Punch should be enough for the randos, so it's just about Morty himself. We probably will need a Mint Berry, even though I think we'll probably outspeed by that point. It's going to be pretty close against that Gengar. And now via level up, we could learn the move Smokescreen, but I'm not going to learn this move. We know that these accuracy strats aren't that great in this generation. solution. And honestly, if we want to go accuracy strats, we still have Mud Slap available, so we'll simply skip the smoke screen for now. So that brings us to Morty, attempt number 1. Let's just see if we can get the win. Fire Punch is enough for the first Ghastly. It goes down. Next, we've got the Haunter, which is not quite a one-hitter. It just held on, so it managed to curse us. That brings out Gengar. I did not put on the Mint Berry here, but Fire Punch looks like it's going to be a 2 or 3 hit KO depending on ranges here. We do get the 2-hit range. So we take that Pokemon down. The final Haunter comes out and just barely survives, but we have enough HP, so we get through on the first attempt against Morty. No issues whatsoever. Now, how we performed here makes me think that probably Magby's gonna have to go down to the Lighthouse first to have any shot, but at least Magmar is progressing in the game. Now let's check in on our Electabuzz. And Electabuzz is coming in with Thunder Punch, Leer, Quick Attack, and Light Screen. So we can use Light Screen to reduce the damage from special moves against us. We may need to upgrade Quick Attack, but still, at least we have some coverage here. Fire Punch and Ice Punch are also options with this Pokemon, as is Mud Slap, so we should have enough to get through. So unlike Magmar, we have 0 issues against the Kimono Girls, and we're ready to go straight to the Rival. Now, the biggest issue we have here is that we don't have anything great for the Magnemite on our moveset currently, so if Fire Punch might be required or Mud Slap, but for now, let's just get in with our moveset and see how this actually goes. First up, we've got the Haunter. We go Thunder Punch. This is going to be a 2-hitter. It curses, so we're definitely not in great situation here. Against the Magnemite, Quick Attack with a critical hit did 12 damage. Let's see the range of Thunder Punch. And we don't even get to see the range. That's all right, let's try again. So this time we will instead Thunder Punch, and Thunder Punch without a crit does significantly more. It did 18 damage here to the Magnemite, so this is a 3-hit KO. Still, we do take it down. Out comes the Bayleaf, which yet again, we don't have anything great against. I'm just gonna go Thunder Punch once here, and Thunder Punch does 13 damage, making this a 5-hit KO. With Curse on, we will never get through here. So I think the Fire Punch is the solution. Here, if we just add Fire Punch over Leer, we will now have a strong move for both the Magnemite and the Bayleaf. So let's just see what the ranges are on this one. So we stick with Thunder Punch on the Haunter. It still gets a curse off on us, but now against Magnemite, Fire Punch gets the 1-hit KO. Bayleaf comes out, we go Fire Punch, we do over half. So this is going to be an easy 2-hitter. Reflect doesn't matter because we're using special moves. And that brings out the final Zubat, which just gets Thunder Punched, and we easily win. So there's a simple solution there, and since Electabuzz learns all of the elemental punches and has good special, this is going to be perfectly fine, I think, for at least the foreseeable future. We can just kind of swap in and out those elemental punches in order to progress in the game. And now with these 2 moves, I think we're perfectly fine for all the randos in the gym, so let's just make our way straight through and see if we can Thunder Punch down Morty. So now we're ready for Morty. I've got the Mint Berry on for this one. We can simply go Thunder Punch on the first Ghastly and get the 1-hit KO. Haunter comes out, we Thunder Punch and still get a 1-hitter. We're faster than the Gengar. We Thunder Punch and do over half. It misses the Hypnosis, so we didn't even need the Mint Berry. We easily knock it out. Final Haunter comes out. This is a 2-hitter, but Nightshade is not enough, so we easily get through with our Electabuzz. So the evolved forms getting through, I think, is reasonable. I mean, they both have elemental punches that are same type, and they have enough coverage that there's not really any reason why they wouldn't have gotten through. But now it's time to check in on the baby Pokemon, and they might actually have some struggles here. Let's lead off with our Magby that's legitimately in the running and see if it can find a way through. And Magby is coming in with Fire Punch, Mud Slap, Leer, and Headbutt. As mentioned, we can also add on Thunder Punch here if we really need to, but that's really our only option if we're not going to go OPTMs in this section of the game. And again, while we will get 2 Smokescreen, I don't think there's any reason to learn that move, especially with Mud Slap already on the moveset. It just makes sense to stick with that in this section. But let's see how we actually do here against all these Kimono Girls, if we can actually get through with Magby, or do we have to go down to the Lighthouse already? So we have gotten Magby to the final Kimono Girl with the Vaporeon. Let's see what Headbutt does. We are faster here, and we take slightly less than half damage from its Water Gun. So as long as that range stacks up, we actually get through just fine with Magby against that Pokemon. We're gonna have to see how we do against the Croconaw, but we will be faster there. So flinches are a potential strategy for getting through here. Like Magby is actually surprisingly fast among Pokemon. I don't think it's going to outspeed the Gengar, but it will outspeed basically everything else in this section thanks to its max DVs. So here, Rival number 3, attempt 1. I'm going to go Fire Punch, and this is going to be a 2-hitter. Of course, he curses me. That's perfectly fine. Out comes the Croconaw. We Headbutt, and Headbutt did 18 damage, which means this is going to be a 4-hit KO on the Croconaw. And given that we have Curse on and we didn't get any flinches, we're simply going to lose. So I think this is a spot for the Goldberry because it will at least give us the chance to heal up in battle for a significant amount of our HP. And that might be what we actually need. We might also want to reset for a critical hit on that first Haunter. This time we get Rage from the Croconaw and we survive on 1 HP from its Water Gun. But we really need a flinch. We do get the flinch right there. That brings out the Zubat. Will simply go Fire Punch. It's going to be a 2-hitter, and we went down to the Bite. Thunder Punch would get us through there, though, so that might be the strategy. So let's just try this again with Thunder Punch, because then we can probably one-shot the Zubat, and once we get through the Zubat, I'm sure that Fire Punch will one-shot against the Magnemite. So here we get a nice couple flinches against the Croconaw. In fact, it never hits us. Now we can come and use Thunder Punch on Zubat. That is just barely not a 1-hit KO. We get confused by Confuse Ray, but we hit the next turn, so it goes down. Magnemite comes out. We hit the Fire Punch, and it is a 1-hitter there. But that was actually not as good as I thought. I thought Thunder Punch would one-shot there against the Zubat, but it maybe is a range, but still can survive. I think going down to the Lighthouse and getting additional levels would make that one more consistent, though. So really, as long as you have a Goldberry and you have the 2 elemental punches and you get at least some flinches there on the Croconaw, you're basically good to go. I think if we get through the Haunter without Curse via a critical hit, that could also have worked. So for now, I'll avoid going to the Lighthouse. Let's just come in and fight the randos inside of the gym and see if we can make our way through Morty with little Magby. So it is Morty time. We've got the Mint Berry on, and I think we're going to be going for, of course, some Hypnosis misses, but maybe we've got the moves. We one-shot there with Fire Punch on the Ghastly. Here on the Haunter, it's a 2-hitter, but it goes Nightshade, so no sleep or curse there. We are faster than the Gengar, funny enough, or it's actually a speed tie, but we get the first Hypnosis miss, the second Hypnosis miss, so we just knocked that Pokemon out. Out comes the final Haunter, and we get a critical hit to one-shot it. So Magby gets through Morty on the first attempt. Really, no issues. And I think this moveset's going to be fine in the next section. This is one of those Pokemon where we're probably going to go to Jasmine before Chuck, and the Fire Punch as a same type move should at least give us a chance against both Price and Jasmine. And then it's just a question of how we do against Chuck. But we've got the Thunder Punch, so we have a super effective move for that Poliwrath. So Magby could be progressing for a minute here. We'll just have to see, but for now, it's moving on. And that brings us to our member pick, which is, of course, the Elekid from Pokemon WWW411 Mark II. Let's go ahead and see how his Zap Chop does in this section. So a massive thank you to Pokemon WWW411 Mark II. He was the second ever channel member on the channel, so he's been supporting for like 2 years now. It's absolutely insane. Thank you so much for your support. And we are coming in with his Elekid Zap Chop, who was given the move Cross Chop. So we've got Thunder Punch, Leer, Cross Chop, and Quick Attack. Cross Chop gives us a good move to use both against grass type Pokemon like the Bayleaf, as well as against the Magnemites, since it will be super effective there. So we at least have a reasonable chance of getting through without adding any new moves, but let's see how this actually goes. Once again, we get through the Kimono Girls with no problems with this Pokemon, so it's straight to Rival number 3, and let's see if we can get it to go. Do we need the Goldberry like we needed with the Magby? Not sure, but we're gonna try it. And of course, Fire Punch could be a play here as well. We'll just have to see, but for now, I'm gonna try this out. First up, on the Haunter, we go Thunder Punch. We're faster, but we don't get a one-hitter. It does about half. Curse then takes that Pokemon down. Out comes the Magnemite, but we're going Cross Chop here, and that is a one-hit KO. Bayleaf comes out. I'm going to stick with Cross Chop because it does pretty significant damage here. 20 damage on that first hit. So this is going to be a 4-hit KO from the looks of things. And then Razor Leaf does take us down, but I think it's at least possible to get through here. I am going to go to the Lighthouse though, just to gain a couple levels, because I think that that will help us get the better range. And as usual, going to the Lighthouse gets us a couple levels with these medium fast level up Pokemon. Getting to level 23, that is a damage rounding threshold, so we will do slightly more damage here. And I'm hoping that that turns the Bayleaf into a 3-hit KO. If so, I think we have a reasonable shot of getting through here, but let's test this out. So back to the Haunter, we do about half, but then it goes Spite, so we just get to knock it out with no Curse on this time. Magnemite, we're going to stick with the Cross Chop. We missed the first one, but we hit the second one. Bayleaf comes out, we hit the Cross Chop and do, yes, this time 23 damage, so this will be a 3-hitter as we get poisoned by the Poison Powder. We survive the Razor Leaf and then miss. Otherwise, we would have taken that down. Obviously, Cross Chop's not perfectly accurate, so that's the real issue there, but as long as we can actually land the hits, we should be able to get through this now. A couple attempts later, we're once again through that Haunter with no Curse. We land the first Cross Chop on Bayleaf, land the second one on Bayleaf. It gets 2 critical hits on us, but we do manage to knock it out and survive. And that brings us to the Zubat, where Thunder Punch just ends it. So even though we were on low health from 2 critical hits in a row from Razor Leaf, it didn't ultimately matter as long as we don't have Curse on. And that can happen. You can paralyze the Haunter with the Thunder Punch and cause it to not be able to move, which is what happened in that fight. But you could also get a critical hit there against the Haunter and just get a 1-hit KO that way. So I feel like that's a perfectly reasonable spot to reset for. It's not going to be perfectly consistent, but maybe with a Gold Berry you can get through that. So now we're just going to completely destroy these randos in the gym with our Thunder Punch. Let's make our way to Morty. So here against Morty, we Thunder Punch on the first Ghastly, getting the easy KO. Thunder Punch on Haunter is a 2-hitter, but we do manage to take it out. Out comes the Gengar. We Thunder Punch because we're faster. It lands the Hypnosis, and I did not put on the Mint Berry, so we're going to have to reset on this one. So let's just try this again with Zap Chop here. Against the Ghastly, we will go Thunder Punch and get the 1-hit KO. Haunter, we're going to go for more of the same action. It does land Hypnosis on us though, so we had to use a Mint Berry there. That brings out the Gengar. It misses the first Hypnosis, misses the second Hypnosis, so we get through. That brings us to the final Haunter, which can go Nightshade, but it's not enough. And just like that, the Zap Chop Elekid gets through. Pokemon WWW411, thank you so much for your support. I think this Pokemon's gonna go far. We got the Ice Punch, we got the Fire Punch, we've got Thunder if we really need it. We're not gonna get to Thunderbolt for quite a while, so our best move is still a little ways away. But I mean, we even learned Dynamic Punch later on if we really want to go YOLO strats on something. So I think that we've got enough coverage to get through with this Pokemon. We'll just have to see, but it is moving on for now. But now, before we finish this episode, there is one last Pokemon that I want to test. New channel member MantisFan7 requested a very special one, Unown, but with a hidden power that is always super effective. Of course, Unown failed previously in the Whitney section. It got there with the hidden power Psychic. The problem was that it couldn't actually deal enough damage to Whitney to get through. But if instead we were using hidden power Fighting there, doing not quite double damage because Unown is Psychic type, so the Psychic was getting a 1.5x increase on damage, but hidden power Fighting, for example, could have been enough there. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be doing is looking at the opponent's stats in order to decide which kind of hidden power to use when there are multiple that are super effective. Take, for example, this Slowpoke. Slowpoke has lower special defense than defense, so we want to use a special hidden power that is super effective here. We already, with max DVs, have hidden power Dark, so it's a perfectly good play right here, and we one-shot the first Slowpoke, and we'll one-shot the second Slowpoke. But now it's time to go into this fight against this super nerd Teru, and here we can look at the stats, and the first thing, of course, is that the defense is higher than the special defense, but we know that hidden power Ground will be 4 times super effective. So now when we use our hidden power, it's going to be hidden power ground, doing 4 times damage here. Now in order to set a different hidden power type, I have to change the DVs of my Pokemon, since the hidden power typing is just calculated in the game's memory from DVs. Still, we can just change our DVs to the proper ones for hidden power ground here, and now when we take on Super Nerd Teru, we use hidden power and it will do super effective damage. In fact, it's 4 times effective here. Hidden power ground is also perfectly fine for the Voltorb since it has lower defense, so we one-shot that Pokemon. That brings out the Magnemite, which also will get one-shot, and we can see that with this setup, we're getting pretty good ranges on these opponents. But now we know that we need to have hidden power fighting for the Whitney battle. We weren't able to beat her before with hidden power psychic, so it's a question of whether or not the super effective typing will be enough. We're still gonna have to go Goldberry here, I think, in order to have a chance of actually getting through this one. Anything less than that, I just see no way that this actually works based on our previous testing with the hidden power psychic. And of course, if we're ever in a situation where there is no super effective typing, or we have to choose between psychic or something else, of course psychic being same type will be the absolute strongest in any case where it's up against something else, unless the opponent's stats really are skewed somehow against us using a special attacking type. But I don't think that's ever actually going to happen. I think in every case, if psychic is super effective, it is the standard play to get through. But now we are ready to get into the gym and just see if our hidden power with fighting is enough to actually beat Whitney. We can see on the top right that our hidden power is in fact fighting type. We've had to give the worst DVs while still having the max power hidden power, and let's just see how this goes. We have to fight against Scary Carry, of course, where hidden power fighting does over half. Bite did a lot, but we do manage to knock that Pokemon out. We can simply heal up very quickly and now make our way to Whitney. I'm going to put on the Goldberry here to be more survivable, and let's just see if that is possibly enough. I'm honestly not sure. I have not pre-tested this. I don't pre-test anything on this channel. I'm always doing it in real time and finding out with you guys how it actually works. So let's go. So Whitney, of course, leads off with her Clefairy. We go hidden power, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO. She Metronome Sing, and that's probably the end of this one, just because we're going to take too much damage. So I'm going to reset on this one since we got like the worst metronome possible. So let's try this one again. Once again, we do over half. We get Feint Attack, which is super effective. She's just getting like the best moves against us, but we do knock out the Clefairy in 2 hits. We get to level 18 and then just get stomped down by the Miltank. Clearly, we just need Clefairy to use a bad move with Metronome though, and at least we'll have a chance here. We get Flail, which was not great either, and Stomp is still too much for us at such low HP. This time we get through on slightly better HP though, so let's see how we do against Miltank. Now it goes Rollout, and we're gonna get a heal after this second hit. We have to just be able to survive. We get a Rollout miss, and it goes Milk Drink against us, but a critical hit from here will one-shot this Pokemon. So we just need the range. It goes back into Rollout, and since it's stuck using that move, we do in fact beat Whitney as soon as we can get to the Miltank without having a crazy amount of damage on us. That's actually perfectly fine. So with that, our super unknown from Mantis Fan 7 is moving on. Let's get to the Morty section and just see how this goes. Now, the one thing that I'm not sure of at this point is if changing our DVs mid-battle will actually result in a different hidden power type, or if we can only set it when we go into battle. It has to do with how the game handles the DVs and the calculation internally. It might be that it only calculates the type of the hidden power at the start of battle and it won't look at it every time we update. So we're gonna have to see. The game also stores the DVs of a Pokemon in 2 separate locations, one for outside of battle and one for in battle. Don't know why they do that, because you would assume that those 2 values are always the same, but they do handle stats, etc. like that in the game's internal memory, where it basically keeps everything during battle copied into a new memory location, but including things like DVs and EVs. I kind of get the EVs or the stat experience because of the fact that it's being updated during battle, but the DVs being copied and stored in 2 locations never made much sense to me. me, since they should theoretically never change on the Pokemon, but I'm gonna try updating in multiple spots to just see which works, if any, for making it so that we actually can change our hidden power mid-battle. But now we have made it to Ecruteak. We're gonna go in and fight the Kimono girls. They each only have one Pokemon, so we can perfectly decide which hidden power to have for each of them. We already know hidden power fighting, so I think this is the way to go just against the Umbreon, and we'll just update as we go through all 4 of them. And after quickly dispatching the Kimono girls, we are ready to make our way to the rival, where the first Pokemon, the Haunter, obviously we want hidden power Psychic, but we're gonna want to change up after that. So let's go into this and see if we can actually change our hidden power in battle or not, and then go based on that. So first up against the Haunter, we have the Psychic type hidden power, allowing us to simply one-shot there against the Haunter. Out comes the Magnemite. Now I need to change my hidden power type. Can I do it? So here I use hidden power on the Magnemite, but it is not very effective. So it clearly does not update my DVs in the middle of battle. Still, we do manage to 3-shot there against the Magnemite. Out comes the Zubat, which is going to be weak to hidden power Psychic, so it simply goes down. We've made it to the final Bayleaf, and it simply destroys us with a Razor Leaf. A super effective hidden power might get a 2-hit KO there, but we'll just have to see. So I do think I have a workaround for this, however, because if I can't change my hidden power typing, what I can do is change the opponent's type and thereby make them weak to my hidden power. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set myself to just have max DVs here. So I'll be going in with hidden power Dark, but then what I'm going to do is adjust the opponent's type so that they are weak against hidden power Dark to see how that actually goes. So first up on the Haunter, we get the 2-hit KO nonetheless with our hidden power Dark, but now in order to make the Magnemite 4 times weak to our hidden power, we're going to change it to be a Psychic Ghost type Pokemon. Now hidden power Dark completely destroys it. We get to the Zubat, where I'm just going to change its poison type to be Ghost type. Now the hidden power will be super effective here. It shouldn't affect any of the power of the moves on this Zubat, but we can see that it's a 2-hit KO with a super effective hidden power here. That brings us to the final Bayleaf, where we are now going to make it a Grass Psychic type Pokemon, so it will be weak to hidden power Dark. We're confused and hit ourselves in confusion. It goes Reflect, but now we can see that we did slightly less than half with our hidden power. So this sort of strategy will at least allow us to get to the Bayleaf and see what kind of damage we do, and this is pretty clearly a winnable fight. We're just going to need to have a healing item in battle, and ideally not to get cursed. Still, this isn't looking great, so I'm going to go ahead and make my way down to the lighthouse just to gain a couple more levels and hopefully have a little more HP when we get to that final Bayleaf. So now we can come back to the rival at a couple levels higher. I'm once again going to go hidden power Dark here, and let's just see how this fight actually works out with the extra couple levels. Magnemite, of course, when it's 4 times weak, is still a 1-hit KO. Now we do one-shot the Zubat. I think earlier if we had hidden power Psychic, we would have one-shot here anyway, since it would be a same type move. But that brings us to the final Bayleaf. Now we will once again give it a type weakness by making it Grass Psychic here, and we can see that we did about half with that first hidden power. Reflect doesn't matter since hidden power Dark is a special move, and keep in mind if we were using hidden power Fire, hidden power Ice, they would also be special, so we wouldn't really care about that Reflect, and now we just easily get through the rival, no issues. It's just about getting that range to be better on both the Zubat and on the Bayleaf. But with that, we can now make our way into Morty's gym. Honestly, I think we want a physical hidden power like hidden power Ground in this section, since it will be super effective against the ghosts and will have the ability to do more damage due to their lower physical defense stat. So let's just see what kind of damage we actually do against these ghosts. But honestly, the defense and special defense are fairly close, so hidden power Psychic actually makes the most sense to get the maximum power here. That will of course allow us to get our same type attack bonus in these battles and should turn things into one-shots, I think. The main main issue that we have here is that we're not super fast, so we're not going to be outspeeding the Haunters here. Ghastly should go down just fine, but the Haunters will get a chance to damage us. So we honestly might want to go Quick Claw here in order to get through. Otherwise, we know Mint Berry can also be pretty useful, but let's get into Morty once and just try this out. I'll go Mint Berry first just to see. So Morty attempt number 1, we go Hidden Power Psychic on the first Ghastly and get the 1-hit KO. Haunter's out next, it misses Hypnosis, and we get the 1-hit KO with our same type attack in Hidden Power Psychic. Out now comes the Gengar. Yes, it does have higher special defense than defense, but the same type of attack bonus should overcome that. And here we do over half to the Gengar, knocking it out in 2 hits. We don't even use the Mint Berry. Out comes the final Haunter. It goes Nightshade. Never stood a chance against Super Unown. So it turns out that if Unown had always a super effective move type, it would be able to get through this section of the game. Whitney still looked a little suspect. It really comes down to what the Clefairy does in that battle, but it was ultimately possible, and that is just kind of insane. And in theory, at least, this Pokemon should be great going forward. I mean, we're gonna basically be using a 4-time super effective Hidden Power on the 2 Magnemites in Jasmine's gym, and then we can have a special Hidden Power for the Steelix. So I think we're effectively putting on Hidden Power Water and then just making our opponents weak to water. Against Chuck, I mean, Hidden Power Psychic is clearly the way to go. And then when we get to Price, we're talking something like Hidden Power Fighting, Hidden Power Rock, or especially for the Piloswine, Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Water, Hidden Power Fire. So yeah, I mean, there are theoretically enough hidden powers that are super effective everywhere that we might just be doing so much damage that we actually get through. We'll have to see, but for now, let me just give a massive thank you to MantisFan7 for joining the channel membership and giving me this very interesting challenge. We're gonna just keep this one going because I'm actually very interested to find out how far this Pokemon can go with always super effective hidden power. And the way that I'm interpreting that, just to make this clear, is if there's ever a possibility of a 4-time super effective hidden power on an opponent, we're gonna use a 4-time super effective hidden power or change their typing in order to make them 4 times weak to our move. I think anytime that it's 4 times super effective, it's gonna 1-hit KO as long as we're faster than the opponent. That's gonna get really interesting when we get to Lance at the end of the game. Since pretty much all of his Pokemon have 4 times weaknesses, that could be insane if we get there. But for now, we're just going to move on with this. Thank you so much for your support. And we're not quite set up yet where the new website will integrate directly with the overlay. That's still a work in progress on the back end. I will let you guys know when that's actually working. But for the new channel members who haven't made picks yet, Cheesy Boy Wanna, Bruins Girl 33, and TTC 345, make sure that you make your picks over there on the website. It is linked in the description below, and if you're not yet a member, you can browse the Pokemon that are available down below, even if you're just interested to see what Pokemon are out there. It's a kind of fun thing to just check into. Anyway, let's wrap this one up and see the Pokemon for next time. And we are getting very close to the end here of the Morty Minimum Battles series section. 95 Pokemon have passed so far, 18 have gotten through with OPTMs. Of course, the members' picks are completely OP, except for poor Wooper sitting down there in the fail column. And outside of that, the only legit Pokemon that failed was the Slowpoke. That Slowpoke is going to get a little bit of a redo in the final episode, though, because there's one thing I did not test that might have made a difference. But for next time, it's going to be a little bit shorter episode, I think. We're going to be coming in with 12 official challengers. Those are, of course, Tauros and its Gen 2 counterpart Miltank, Gyarados, Lapras, all the evolutions that are still left in the challenge, Porygon, Porygon 2, Aerodactyl, and Snorlax. That, of course, means that we're going to have a bunch of channel member picks in the next episode as well. We're going to be coming with our Jolteon and Flareon. I'm also going to do the Chansey and Blissey, and I think we'll get Delibird in there. We're going to save Lord Helix and Lord Dome, as well as Dratini for the last episode. And of course, if there are any new member picks in the interim, we will get those in as well. But 2 episodes left of this section. And then we are on to the absolute gauntlet that will be the Chuck, Jasmine, Price section. Of course, Price probably won't be much of a gauntlet, but the other two, I am actually expecting them to put in a little bit of work. And hopefully we can start to pare down some of these challengers, because so far everything is just crushing Johto. Like, consider that even before we go to these last two episodes, we can probably reasonably predict that between OPTMs and the legit passes, about 50% of all Pokemon in Gen 2 are getting through this section of the game, which is kind of insane. I mean, it basically says to us at this point that if you can get through Bugsy and Rival 2, you're pretty much good to go through the next two gyms with no issues, unless your name is specifically unknown or Wooper, where no matter what we do, you just simply can't progress, or Slowpoke possibly. But like I said, I think I might actually have a way to get that Pokemon through. It's not going to be ideal, but it is worth testing. Anyway, that does it for this one. Place your predictions of how the next week's challengers are going to do in the comments down below, and I will see you then. Later.